Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Bo-chan.
I'm Nimacum.
I'm Van-chan.
In this class, I'll read all of you a part of Ulysses,
Bess,
L.
Ulysses, James Joyce, Chap, 16 sec 12. Nevertheless, he sat tight, just viewing the slightly soiled photo creased by opulent curves. None the worse for wear, however. I looked away thoughtfully with the intention of not further increasing the other's possible embarrassment, while gauging her symmetry of heaving and pinpoint. In fact, the slight soiling was only an added charm, like the case of linen. Slightly soiled. Good as new. Much better, in fact, with the starch out. Suppose she was gone one knee. I looked for the lamp, which she told me came into his mind but merely as a passing fancy of his, because he then recollected the morning littered bed, etc., and the book about Ruby with Met and Baco's sick in it, which must have fell down sufficiently appropriately beside the domestic chamber put with apologies to Lindley Murray. The vicinity of the young man he certainly relished. Educated, distinguished and impulsive into the bargain. Far and away the pick of the bunch, though you wouldn't think he had it. In him, yet you would. Besides, he said the picture was handsome, which, say what you like, it was, though at the moment she was distinctly stouter. And why not? An awful lot of make-believe went on about that sort of thing involving a life form. So with the usual splash page of Gutterpurse about the same old matrimonial tingle alleging misconduct with the professional golfer or the nurse stage favourite, instead of being honest and above board about the whole business. How they were fated to meet, and an attachment sprang up between the two, so that their names were coupled in the public, I was told, in court with letters containing the habitual mushy and compromising expressions, leaving no loophole to show that they openly cohabited 2 or 3 times a week at some one-armed seaside hotel in relations. When the thing ran its normal course, they came in due course intimate. Then the decrenacy and the King's Proctor tries to show cause why, and he failing to quash it, Innicy was made absolute. But as for that, the two misdemeanants, wrapped up as they largely were in one another, could safely afford to ignore it, as they very largely did, till the matter was put in the hands of a solicitor who filed a petition for the party round in due course. They enjoyed the distinction of being cloisterians and crowned king in the flesh when the thing occurred on the historic fracas, when the fallen leaders, who notoriously stripped at his guns to the last drop, even when clothed in the mantle of adultery, leaders trusty henchmen to the number of 10 or a dozen, or possibly even more than that, penetrated into the printing works of the inexpressible, or no, it was united Ireland by no means by appropriate appellative, and broke up the Tepicus with hammers or something like that, all on account of some scurrilous effusions from the facile pens of the Obrenet scribes at the usual mudslinging occupation, reflecting on their erstwhile tribune's private morals, though palpably a radically altered man. He was still a commanding figure, though callously garbed, as usual, with that look of settled purpose which went a long way with the Chevaliers, till they discovered to their vast discomfiture that their idol had feet of clay. After placing him upon a pedestal, which she, however, was the first to perceive, as those were particularly hot times, and the general hullabaloo bloom sustained a minor injury from a nasty part of some chap's elbow in the crowd that, of course, congregated, lodging some place about the pit of the stomach. Fortunately not of a grave character. His hat parnell's a silk one was inadvertently knocked off, and, as a matter of strict history, Bloom was the man who picked it up in the crush after witnessing the occurrence. Meaning to return it to him, and return it to him he did with the utmost celerity, who panting and hatless, and whose thoughts were miles away from his hat. At the time, all the same, being a gentleman born with a stake in the country, he, as a matter of fact, having gone into it more for the kudos of the thing than anything else, was bred in the bone instilled into him in infancy at his mother's knee, and the shape of knowing what good form was came out at once, because he turned round to the donor and thanked him with perfect aplomb, saying, "Thank you," though in a very different tone of voice from the ornament of the legal profession, whose headgear Bloom also set to rights earlier in the course of the day, history repeating itself with a difference. After the burial of a mutual friend, when they had left him alone in his glory after the grim task of having committed his remains to the grave. On the other hand, what incensed him more inwardly was the blatant jokes of the cabmen and so on, who passed it all off as a jest, laughing immoderately, pretending to understand everything, the why and the wherefore, and in reality not knowing their own minds, it being a case for the two parties themselves, unless it ensued that the legitimate husband happened to be a party to it, owing to some anonymous letter from the usual Boy Jones, who happened to come across them at the crucial moment in a loving position, locked in one another's arms, drawing attention to their illicit proceedings and leading up to domestic rumpus, and the erring fair one begging forgiveness of her lord and master upon her knees, and promising to sever the connection and not receive his visits any more, if only the aggrieved husband would overlook the matter and let bygones be bygones, with tears in her eyes, though possibly with hurting in her fair cheek at the same time, as quite possibly there were several others. He personally, being of a sceptical bias, believed and didn't make the smallest bones about saying so, either that man or men in the plural were always hanging around on the waiting list about a lady, even supposing she was the best wife in the world, and they got on fairly well together for the sake of argument, and neglecting her duties, she chose to be tired of wooded life, and was on for a little flutter in polite debauchery to press their attentions on her with improper intent, the upshot being that her affections centred on another, the cause of many liaisons between still attractive married women getting on for fair and 40 and younger men. No doubt, as several famous cases of feminine infatuation proved up to the hilt. It was 1,000, but he's a young fellow, blessed with an allowance of brains, as his neighbour obviously was, should waste his valuable time with profligate women who might present him with a nice dose to last him his lifetime. In the nature of single blessedness, he would one day take unto himself a wife. When Miss Wright came on the scene, but in the interim ladies' society was a conditio sine qua non, though he had the gravest possible doubts. Not that he wanted in the smallest to pump Stephen about Miss Ferguson, who was very possibly the particular low star who brought him down to Irishtown so early in the morning. As to whether he would find much satisfaction busking in the boy and girl courtship idea, and the company of smirking misses without a penny to their names by our triarchy, with the orthodox preliminary cunt of compliment playing and walking out, leading up to fond lovers, ways and flowers and sharks. To think of him house and homeless, which by some landlady worse than any stepmother, was really too bad at his age. The grey suddenly things he popped out with attracted the elder man, who was several years of the senior, all like his father, but something substantial he certainly ought to. He'd even wear it only in a flip made on unadulterated maternal nutriment, or failing that, the homely Humpty Dumpty boiled. At what o'clock did you dine? He questioned of the slim form and tired though unwrinkled face. Sometime yesterday, Stephen said. Yesterday, exclaimed Broom till he remembered it was already tomorrow Friday. Well, you mean it's after 12? The day before yesterday, Stephen said, improving on himself. Literally astounded at this piece of intelligence, Bloom reflected. Though they didn't see eye to eye in everything, a certain analogy there somehow was, as if both their minds were travelling, so to speak, in the one train of thought. At his age, when dabbling in politics roughly some score of years previously, when he had been a quasi-aspirant to parliamentary honours in the buckshot, Mr. Daisy too recollected in retrospect, which was a source of keen satisfaction in itself. He had the sneaking regard for those same ultra ideas. For instance, when the evicted tenants question, then at its first inception, spoke largely in people's mind, though it goes without saying, not contributing a copper or pinning his faith absolutely to his dictums, some of which wouldn't exactly hold water. He at the outset, in principle at all events, was in thorough sympathy with peasant petitioners voicing the trend of modern opinion of partiality. However, which, realising his mistakes, he was subsequently partially cured of, and even was treated with going a step farther than Michael Devitt in the striking views he at one time inculcated as a backed flinder, which was one reason he strongly resented the innuendo put upon him in so barefaced a fashion by our friend at the gathering of the clans in Barney Carnan, so that he, though often considerably misunderstood and the least pugnacious of mortals, be repeated, departed from his customary habit to give a metaphorically one in the gizzard, though, so far as politics themselves were concerned, he was only too conscious of the casualties invariably resulting from propaganda and displays of mutual animosity, and the misery and suffering it entailed as a foregone conclusion on fine young fellows. Chiefly, destruction of the fittest. In a word, upon weighing up the pros and cons, getting on for one. As it was high time to be retiring for the night. The crux was it was a bit risky to bring him home, as eventualities might possibly ensue, somebody having a temper of her own sometimes and spoil the hash altogether. As on the night he misguidedly brought home a jug breed enown with the lame. Paul, not that the cases were either identical or the reverse, though he had hurt his hand to Ontario tourists, as he very distinctly remembered having been there, so to speak. On the other hand, it was altogether far and away too late for the sentiment or Sandikov's suggestion, so that he was in some perplexity as to which of the two alternatives. Everything pointed to the fact that it behoved him to avail himself to the full of the opportunity, all things considered. His initial impression was he was a shade standoffish, or not over effusive, but it grew on him some way. For one thing, he mightn't what you call jump at the idea if approached. And what mostly worried him was he didn't know how to lead up to it. Or word it exactly. Supposing he did entertain the proposal, as it would afford him very great personal pleasure if he would allow him to help to put coin in his way or some wardrobe, if found suitable. At all events, he wound up by concluding a string for the Nancy Hyde-bound precedent, a cup of Ips's cocoa and a shakedown for the night, plus the use of a rug or two and overcoat doubled into a pillow. At least he would be in safe hands and as warm as a toast on a try if he failed to perceive any very vast amount of harm in that, always with the proviso no rumpus of any sort was kicked up. A move had to be made because that merry old soul, the grass widower in question, who appeared to be glued to the spot, didn't appear in any particular hurry to wend his way home to his dearly beloved Queenstown, and it was highly likely St. Sponge's but a house of retired beauties where age was no bar of sure street lore would be the best clue to that equivocal characters whereabouts for a few days to come. Alternately racking their feelings, the mermaids with six jambo revolver anecdotes verging on the tropical calculated to freeze the marrow of anybody's bones and mauling their larger sized charms between whiles with rough and tumble gusto to the accompaniment of large partitions of potheen and the usual borny about himself, whereas he in reality was letic right, name and address, as Mr. Algebra remarks Bassem. At the same time he inwardly chuckled over his gentle repartee to the bloodhound, Anne's champion about his God being a Jew. People could put up with being bitten by a wolf, but what properly riled them was a bite from a sheep. The most vulnerable point too of Tindrecles. Your God was a Jew. Because mostly they appeared to imagine he came from Carrick-on-Shan and Ossamiri in the county Sligo. I propose, our hero eventually suggested after mature reflection while prudently pocketing her photo, as it's rather stuffy here, you just come home with me and talk things over. My diggings are quite close in the vicinity. You can't drink that stuff. Do you like cocoa? Which I'll just pay this thought. The best plan clearly being to clear out, the remainder being plain sailing. He beckoned, while prudently pocketing the photo, to the keeper of the shanty, who didn't seem to Yes, that's the best, he assured Stephen, to him for the matter of that brazen head or him or anywhere else was all more or less. All kinds of utopian plans were flashing through his bee's busy brain. Education, the genuine article. Literature. Journalism. Prize tippets. Up-to-date billing. Concert tours and English watering resorts packed with hydros and seaside theatres. Turning money away. Jude's an Italian with the accent perfectly true to nature and the quantity of other. Then, no necessity, of course, to tell the world and his wife from the house tops about it. And a slice of luck. An opening was always wanted. Because he more than suspected he had his father's ways to bank his hopes on, which it was quite on the card he had, so it would be just as well. By the way, no harm to trail the conversation in the direction of that particular red herring juster. The cubby read out of the paper he had got hold of that the former Viceroy Al-Cadogan had presided at the Cab Drivers Association dinner in London somewhere. Silence with a yawn or to accompany this thrilling announcement. Then the old specimen in the corner who appeared to have some spark of vitality. That freed out that Sir Anthony MacDonald had left Euston for the Chief Secretary's lodge. Or words to that effect. To which absorbing piece of intelligence go and said why. Give us a squint at that literature. Grandfather, the ancient mariner put in, manifesting some natural impatience. And welcome. Answered the elderly party thus addressed. The sailor looked out from a case he had a pair of greenish goggles which he very slowly hooked over his nose in both ears. Are you bad in the eyes? The sympathetic personage like the town clerk queried. Well, and said the seafarer with the tartan beard, who seemingly was a bit of a literary cove in his own small way, staring out at sea green portholes as you might well describe them as. I used his goggles reading. Sand in the Red Sea done that. One time I could read a book in the dark. Manner of speaking. The Arabian Nights Entertainment was my favourite and read As a Rose Is She. Harry Bunny put the journal open and pored upon Lord only knows what. Found drowned are the exploits of King Willow. I remember having made 100 and something second wicket not out for knots. During which time, completely regardless of either the keeper, was intensely occupied listening and apparently knew a second-hand boot which manifestly pinched him as he muttered against whoever it was. Sold it. All of them who were sufficiently awake enough to be picked out by their facial expressions. That is to say, either simply looking on glumly or passing a trivial remark. To cut a long story short, Bloom, grasping the situation, was the first to rise from his seat so as not to outstay their welcome, having first and foremost being as good as his word that he would fit the bill for the occasion, taken the wise precaution to unobtrusively motion to mine host as a parting shot at scarcely perceptible sign when the others were not looking to the effect that the amount due was forthcoming, making a grand total of rupees the amount he deposited unobtrusively in 4 coppers. Literally the last of the Mohicans, he having previously spotted on the printed price list for all who ran to read opposite him in unmistakable figures. Feet, confectionery due, and honestly well worth twice the money once in a way, as will their appeased to remark. He cancelled to coast the sense, seeing that the ruse worked and the coast was clear. They left the shelter, chanty together in the light society of Oilskin and company whom nothing short of an earthquake would move out of their dull chafer niente. Stephen, who confessed to still feeling pulley and fagged out, paused at for a moment, the door. To be continued.